This is as much an ad for Mercedes as Top Gun Maverick was for the Navy. I remember just being kind of bowled over by what a great aesthetic object Tron Legacy was. Joseph Kosinski used to have visual flair. Hey everybody. Need something to distract you from the current geopolitical situation that's happening right now? Joseph Kosinski's F1 is coming to theaters on Friday, June 27th. This movie is definitely trying to be, you know, the first big summer popcorn film this year. A big, light entertainment that everybody can just sit back and enjoy. It's a thrill ride, and I didn't like it very much, I have to say. This wasn't a great distraction for me from the current geopolitical situation. I do think the film falls short, unfortunately, of even its modest ambitions. Now, modest is an interesting word to use for a film that cost $200 million to make, that is 2.5 hours long, a lumbering 2.5 hours long, a sort of endless 2.5 hours long. Although, you know, I think that runtime might have been more palatable to me if I was engaged with the characters. It's sometimes nice to have this, you know, sort of long action epic. Now, F1, sometimes called F1 the movie, that's what the poster says and some of the promotional materials, but if we're going by Mike D'Angelo, famed online film critic, his rule for film titling is what is the title that appears on screen in the title card of the movie. This is just called F1 if we're going by those rules. F1 follows Brad Pitt's Sonny Hayes. This is a former Formula One driver who, in the 90s, the film says, was a hot young driver who flamed out basically really quickly. He was racing against Ayrton Senna. There is a fantastic 2011 documentary on called Senna that has some really great racing footage, and I really like that film. That might have been the first time I heard about Formula One. This movie's fictional world, Sonny Hayes raced against Ayrton Senna, had this terrible race, he had a big accident, he hasn't really been able to come back since, and he didn't race for years, but then he's been doing some sort of small time races, a little bit of, I don't think it's NASCAR, but it's some type of race in the US. He's like racing at Daytona in the first underwhelming sequence in the movie. This is when I knew we were kind of in for trouble. I feel like this first initial action sequence of this lead character who's supposed to have this kind of renegade style, he's supposed to be this badass, and I knew I was kind of in trouble when the whole first sequence that lays out what kind of driver he is and how he'll risk everything and how he won't play by the rules just sort of falls flat and isn't that exciting. I was bummed. I was like, okay, this is going to be a long 2.5 hours. I don't know if this movie has it. I think if it had it, this opening sequence would be better. And I was right. Javier Bardem plays this character called Ruben Cervantes. He was a fellow driver, a teammate of Sonny's back in the day. He recruits Sonny to drive for his struggling team in England, who has one hotshot driver to its name, Damson Idris as Joshua Pierce, who's sort of a Lewis Hamilton type as far as I understand it, the real-life British Formula One driver who drives for Ferrari. Hamilton actually produced the film, appears briefly in it. Sonny Hayes and Joshua Pierce butt heads. They both have big egos, and they both think that their driving style is the way to go. Pierce is sort of written as if he has a definable driving style, but then the film doesn't really lay out what that is. Yeah, the conflict of the movie is basically just, can Sonny reinvigorate this failing team, and also can he and Pierce work together? It's just corny. It's so corny. The drama is so manufactured. It's directed by Joseph Kosinski. It's his 6th film. He made Top Gun Maverick, which I was also not a fan of. He started his career, though, with this movie Tron Legacy, a kind of update of the 80s film Tron. He made that movie for Disney, and it's a really stylish film. I saw it in theaters at the time. It has a score by Daft Punk. It has this nighttime neon lit aesthetic that's just really pretty. I remember just being kind of bowled over by what a great aesthetic object Tron Legacy was. I kind of want to revisit it, and I'm also kind of scared to revisit it, but I do have this great memory of it in my head. Like, Joseph Kosinski used to have visual flair. I didn't see his film Oblivion with Tom Cruise. I believe that's his 2nd film, but then I did see this movie Only the Brave that he made in 2017, and, you know, I saw it in theaters with my best friend at the time. It's a film about firefighters and forest fires, and it also, the drama and the human relationship situations. Kosinski has no idea how to direct actors to be human and relatable and funny and kind of give lived-in performances. He's just not good at that. Only the Brave really flops there. You don't really believe any of those relationships or those people. I believe that continues into Top Gun Maverick and also now into F1. I just don't care about spending time with any of these people. I think the interactions are really wooden, and you don't get the sense that these people like each other or don't like each other. You just, it all plays really flat on sort of a people level. You know, you could call Kosinski's visual style like classical, I guess. The person I saw the film with called it crisp. I think that's generous. I think it's not really classical or crisp. It's just bland and square. The way that the images look, the editing, certainly the music choices are probably the worst stylistic element. At one point, somewhat early on, they play We Will Rock You by Queen during a race. The song that they choose to play when Carrie Condon, who plays this engineer who works on the team and helps design the cars, named Kate. She's a love interest of Pitt, and spoilers, when they get together, the song that plays in the hotel elevator while they make out is so bad. It's so poorly chosen. She falls into his arms, and the song that they cue up is just such a groaner. I wish this film brought me into the world of F1 a little more. As someone who doesn't watch or really care about F1 that much, I don't really feel like the film brought me in enough to care and really like enticed me into this world. Some of the terminology that it drops, that it uses, such as dirty air and warm tires versus cold tires, about the cars, you know, oh, well, they have an advantage in this situation because they have warm tires versus cold tires. I did find that interesting. And I found the dirty air terminology interesting. I like that it was referencing that stuff. That was like the most intrigue that I had. And I'm even like somewhat of a casual car guy. And there were some cool cars. You know, Mercedes is highly featured in the film. This is as much an ad for Mercedes as Top Gun Maverick was for the Navy. But even as somewhat of a car guy, it's just not that engaging for whatever reason. I think it's a big part of it is Kosinski's visual style and his way of shooting action. I love that the action sequences here, like they were in Top Gun Maverick, in Top Gun Maverick, they used real planes and they're actually flying in planes, and that's pretty cool. And here, similarly, the actors are really in these cars and speeding around these tracks, and I really appreciate that, and I love that it isn't CGI. You know, it's interesting, Kosinski actually started his career, if Wikipedia is to be believed, in animation and CGI specifically, and in like video game commercials. And then Tron Legacy was pretty CGI based, but in the years since then, he's sort of moved into this much more practical effects based style of filmmaking, and I find that really interesting as a pivot. I applaud that. I would much rather someone work practically, so I do really appreciate that aspect of the film and that tactile sense. It doesn't outweigh the wooden drama here, the terrible script. Maybe not terrible. I do like the fact that Pitt is allowed to be this truly, you know, they say at one point a character tells him he's not a has-been, he's a never was, and he is truly allowed to be this pathetic and old guy. You know, as great as Pitt looks on screen, he still does feel old. His bones still do feel creaky, and that's something he's trying to really overcome in the film, and I did appreciate that. And I also, one small aspect I appreciated was that the film is almost like a study of the fact that you have to be kind of an asshole to be good at or interested in this world, to be good at this sport, if it is a sport. Both Idris and Pitt's characters are basically whiny babies and egotistical in their own ways, and they butt heads because of that. Through that, the film is sort of lightly exploring the fact that, yeah, like to risk it all, because they really are risking their life every race, to risk it all and to care this much about racing cars around a track, you do and to dedicate your life to that, you do kind of have to be a dick. And I appreciate that's something that the film is trying to get at, but it still just did not work for me overall, and I did not have the sense of thrill or escapism that I really was desiring on a summer night watching this movie. I hate to say it. Okay. Time for a fit check. Today we got on just silver hoop earrings. You might notice I kind of just leave them in. Occasionally wear other earrings, but these are kind of my standard ones right now. Got the normal eyebrow piercing. Got this sterling silver necklace I got on the street in Thailand when I visited last year. It's a great length. It's been a really solid staple for me. Got this, I'm pretty sure, you know, like fake silver bracelet, to be honest. But, you know, costume jewelry, sometimes a necessity for a young striver such as myself. Here's the fit today. We got this short sleeve button down. You guys call them button ups, button downs? Short sleeve buttoned shirt. I thrifted it. I kind of wore it for this video because I actually wore this shirt to a day of Wimbledon last year when I visited England. People like to clown me for it being like a referee shirt or like on my Beetlejuice shit, but I love this shirt. I love black and white. I think it looks cool, and I'm not in my referee bag, you know? But at the same time, I did kind of wear it for this episode because partially the, European sport thing, like Wimbledon, F1, these are kind of like Eurocentric things. But also it does feel athletic in some way because of the referee thing to me. So I decided, F1 episode, here we go, let's wear this. But I'm wearing it with these Abercrombie light wash jeans. Just got them pretty recently. Oh, and I forgot to mention, I was just looking it up. I thrifted the shirt, but apparently it's from Collusion, and I was like, what is Collusion? And I looked it up, and it's an ASOS brand. Womp womp, fast fashion king / trash asshole. But I thrifted it, so I guess it's a little better, but yeah, we hate ASOS and fast fashion, but apparently that's where the shirt comes from. Forgetting what thrift store I found it at, but anyway. Yeah, these are the jeans. I like them a lot. They're wide leg. They're, I think, the widest fit that Abercrombie has. I think black, white, and light wash denim like work really well together. And I'm wearing with it these boots. They are Restoration. That's the brand. Honestly, don't know that much. Honestly, don't know that much about Restoration. I always think it's Reformation, which I think is another thing. Yeah, can't go wrong with a pair of black boots. And yeah, that's today's fit check. This has been Red to Filth. Thanks for joining me, guys.